Money is the medium by which earthly success is measured. Money makes possible the enjoyment of the best the earth affords. Money is plentiful for those who understand the simple laws which govern its acquisition. Money is governed today by the same laws which controlled it, which when prosperous men thronged the streets of Babylon 6,000 years ago. as as for time all men have it in abundance. Mm, Money is plentiful for those who understand the simple rules of its acquisition. First is start thy purse to fattening, control thy expenditures, make thy gold multiply, guard thy treasures from loss, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment, ensure a future income, increase thy ability to earn. There are 10 chapters in this book. Let's let's start from forward. FOREWORD. Our prosperity as a nation depends upon the personal financial prosperity of each of us as individuals. This book deals with the personal successes of each of us. Success means accomplishments as the result of our own efforts and ability. Can be wisely termed a guide to financial understanding. That indeed is its purpose to offer those who are ambitious for financial success an insight which will aid them to acquire money, to keep money, and to make their surpluses earn more money. In the pages which follow, we are taken back to Babylon, the cradle in which was nurtured the basic principles of finance now recognized and used the world over. To new readers, the author is happy to extract difficult personal financial problems so enthusiastically reported by readers from coast to coast. To the business executives, to the business executives, to the business executives who have distributed these tales in such generous quantities to friends, relatives, employees, and associates. The author takes this opportunity to express his gratitude. No endorsement could be higher than that the practical men who appreciate its teaching because they themselves have worked up to important successes by applying the very principles it advocates. Babylon becomes the wealthiest city of the ancient world because its citizens were the richest people of their time. They appreciated the value of money. They practiced sound financial principles in acquiring money, keeping money, and making their money earn more money. They provided for themselves what we are all desire income for the future. An historical sketch of Babylon. In the pages of history, there lives no city more glamorous than Babylon. It is very in its very name conjures visions of the wealth and splendor. Its treasure of gold and jewel were fabulous. One naturally pictures such a wealthy city as located in a suitable setting of tropical luxury, surrounded by rich natural resources of forest and mines. Such was not the case. It was located beside the Euphrates River in a flat, arid valley. It has no forests, no mines, not even stones for building. It was not even located upon a natural trade route. The rainfall was insufficient to raise crops. Babylon is an outstanding example of man's ability to achieve great objective using whatever means are at his disposal. All of the resources supporting this large city were man developed. All of its riches were man made. Babylon possessed just two natural resources, a fertile soil and water in the river, which with one of the greatest engineering accomplishments of this or any other day, Babylonian engineers diverted the water from the river by means of dam and immense irrigation canals. Far out across that arid valley went these canals to pour the life giving waters over the fertile soil. This ranks among the first engineering feats known to history. Such abundant crops as were the reward of this irrigation system the world had never seen before. Fortunately, during its long existence, Babylon was ruled by successive lines of kings to whom conquest and plunder were but accidental. While it engaged in many wars, most of these were locals and or defensive against ambitious conquerors from other countries who coveted the fabulous treasures of Babylon. The astounding rules of Babylon live in history because of their wisdom, enterprise, and justice. Babylon produced no strutting monarchs who sought to conquer the known world, but that all nations might pay homage to their egotism. As a city, Babylon exists no more when those energizing human forces that built and maintained the city for thousands of years were withdrawn. It soon became a deserted ruin. The site of the city is in Asia, about 600 miles east of the Suez Canal, just north of the Persian Gulf. The latitude is about 30 degrees above the equator, practically the same as the Yuma, Arizona. It possessed a climate similar to that of this American city, hot and dry. Today, this valley of this Euphrates, once a populous, irrigated farming district, is against a wind-swept, arid waste. Scant grass and deserted shrubs strive for existence against the wind-blown sands. Gone are the fertile fields, the mammoth cities, and the long caravans of rich merchandise. Nomadic bands of the Arabs securing a scant living by tending small herds and only the inhabitants. Such it has been since the about beginning of the Christian era. Dotting this valley are earthen hills. For centuries, they were considered by travelers to be nothing else. The attention of archaeologists were finally attracted to them because of the broken pieces of pottery and brick washed down by the occasional rainstorms. Expeditions financed by European and American museums were sent to here to excavate and see what could be found. Picks and shovels soon proved these hills to be ancient cities graves they might be well be called. Babylon was one of those. Over these, for something like 20 centuries, the wind had scattered the desert dust. Built originally of bricks, all exposed walls have disintegrated and gone back to earth once more. Such is Babylon, the wealthy city today, a heap of dirt so long abandoned that no living person even knew its name until it was discovered by carefully removing the refuse of centuries from the streets and the fallen wreckage of its noble temples and palaces. Many scientists consider the civilization of Babylon and other cities in this valley to be the oldest of which there is defined record. Positive dates have been proved reaching back 8,000 years. An interesting fact in this connection is the means used to determine these dates. Uncovered in the ruins of Babylon were descriptions of an eclipse of the sun. Modern astronomers readily computed the time when such an eclipse visible in Babylon occurred and thus established a known relationship between their calendar and our own. In this way, we have proved that we have proved that 8,000 years ago the Sumerites who inhabited Babylonia were living in walled cities. One can only conjecture for how many centuries previous such cities have existed. Their inhabitants were not mere barbarians living without protecting walls. They were an educated and enlightened people. So far as written history goes, they were the first engineers, the first astronomers, the first mathematicians, for the first financiers, and the first people to have a written language. Manson has made of this irrigation system which transformed the arid valley into an agriculture paradise. The remains of these canals can be still be traced, although they are mostly filled with accumulated sand. Some of them were the size of that when empty of water a dozen horses could be ridden abreast along their bottoms. In size, they compared favorably with the largest canal in Colorado and Utah. In addition to irrigating the valley lands, Babylonian engineers completed another project of similar magnitude by the means of an elaborated drainage system. They reclaimed an immense area of swamp land at the mouth of Euphrates and Tigris rivers and put this also under cultivation. Herodotus, the Greek traveler and historian, visited Babylon while it was in its prime and has given us the only known description by an outsider. His writing gives a graphic description of the city and graphic description of the city. Okay, the front page has painted the graphical image. His writings give a graphic description of the city and some of the unusual custom of its people. He mentions the remarkable fertility of the soil and the bountiful harvest of wheat and barley which they produced. The glory of Babylon has faded, but its wisdom has been preserved for us. For this, we are indebted to their forms of record. In that distant day, the use of paper had not been invented. Instead, they laboriously engraved their writing upon tablets of moist clay. When completed, these were baked and became hard tile. In size, they were about 6 by 8 inches and an inches in thickness. These clay tablets, as they commonly called, were used as much we used modern forms of writing. Upon them were engraved legends, poetry, history, transcriptions of royal decrees, the laws of the land, titles to property, promissory notes, and even letters which were dispatched by the messenger to distant cities. From these clay tablets, we are permitted an insight into intimate personal affairs of the people. For example, one tablet, evidently from the records of the country's storekeeper, relates that upon giving the date of certain named customer brought in a cow and exchanged it for 7 sacks of wheat, three being delivered at a time and the other four to await the customer's pleasure. Safely buried in wrecked cities, archaeologists have recovered entire libraries of these tablets, hundreds of thousands of them. One of the understanding wonders of Babylon was the immense wall surrounding the city. The ancient ranked them with the Great Pyramid of Egypt as belonging to seven wonders of the world. Queen Semiramis is credited with having erected the first walls during the early history of the city. Modern excavators have been unable to find any trace of the original walls, nor is their exact height known. From mention made by early writers, it is estimated they were about 50 to 60 feet high, faced on the outer side with burnt brick and further protected by a deep moat of water. The later and more famous wall were started about 600 years before the times of Christ by King Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar. Upon such a gigantic scale did he plan the rebuilding. He did not live to see the work finished. This was left to his son Nebuchadnezzar, whose name is familiar in biblical history. The height and length of these later walls staggers believes they are reported upon reliable authority to have been about 160 feet high, the equivalent of the height of the modern 15-story office building. The total length is estimated as between 9 and 11 miles. So wide was the top of the six-horse chariot could be driven around them. One of these tremendous structure little now remains except portions of the foundations and the moat. In addition to the ravages of the elements, the Arabs completed the destruction of by quarrying the brick for building purposes elsewhere. Against the walls of Babylon marched, in turn, the victorious armies of the almost every conqueror of that age of war of contest. A host of kings siege has laid siege to Babylon, but always in vain. Invading armies of that day were not to be considered lightly. Historians speak of such units as 10,000 horsemen, 5,000 chariots, 1,200 regiments of foot soldiers with 1,000 men to the regiment. Often 2 or 3 years of preparation would be required to assemble war material and depots of food along the proposed line of march. The city of Babylon was organized much like a modern city. There were streets and shops. Peddlers offered their wares through residential districts. Priests officiated in magnificent temples. Within the city was an inner enclosure for the royal places. The wall about this was said to have been higher than those about the city. The Babylonians were skilled in the art. They included sculpture, painting, weaving, gold working, and manufacture of metal weapons and agriculture implements. Their jewelers created most artistic jewelry. Many samples have been recovered from the graves of its wealthy citizens and are not on exhibition in the leading museums of the world. At a very early period, when the rest of the world was still hacking the trees with stone headed axes or hunting and fighting with flint pointed spears and arrows. The Babylonians were used axes, spears, and arrows metal with metal heads. The Babylonians were clever financiers and traders. So far as we know, so far as we know, they were the original inventors of the money as a means of exchange or of promissory notes and written titles to property. Babylon was never entered by hostile armies until about 540 years before the birth of Christ BC. Even then, the walls were not captured. The story of the fall of Babylon is most unusual. Cyrus one of the great conquerors of that period, intended to attack the city and hoped to take its impregnable walls. Advisors of Nabonidus, the king of Babylon, persuaded him to go forth to meet Cyrus and give him battle without waiting for the city to be besieged. In the succeeding defeat to the Babylonian army, it fled away from the city. Cyrus thereupon entered the open gates and took possession without resistance. Thereafter, the power and prestige of the city gradually waned until, in the course of a new few hundred years, it was eventually abandoned, deserted, left for the winds and storms to level once again to the desert earth, from which its grandeur had originally been built. Babylon had fallen, never to rise again, but to its civilization owes much. The eons of the time have crumbled to dust to proud walls of its temple, but the wisdoms of Babylon endures. Chapter 1. The man who desired gold. Bansir, the chariot builder of the Babylon, was thoroughly discouraged from his seat upon the low wall surrounding his property. He gazed sadly at his simple home and the open workshop in which stood a partially completed chariot. His wife frequently appeared at the open door. Her furtive glances in his direction reminded him that the meal bag was almost empty, and he should be at work finishing the chariot, hammering and hewing, polishing and painting, stretching taut the leather over the wheel rims, preparing it for the delivery so he could collect for his wealthy customers. Nevertheless, his fat, muscular body sat sturdily upon the wall. His slow mind was struggling patiently with the problem, for he could find no answer. The hot tropical sun, so tropical, of this valley of the Euphrates, beat down upon him mercilessly. Beads of perspiration formed upon his brow and trickled down unnoticed to lose themselves in a hairy jungle of his chest. Beyond his home towered the high terraced wall surrounding the king's palace. Nearby, cleaving the blue heavens, was the painted towers of the Temple of Bel. In the shadows of such grandeur was his simple home and squalor, a dazzling wealth as a, and direst poverty crowded together without plan or system within the protecting walls of the city. Behind him, had he cared to turn and look, the noisy chariots of the rich jostled and crowded aside the sandaled tradesmen carriers on the king's business, each bearing a heavy goatskin of water to be poured upon hanging gardens. Bansir was too engrossed in his own problems to hear and heed the confused hubbub of the busy city. It was the unexpected twanging of the strings from a similar lyre that aroused him from his reverie. 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 Kobe the musician. May, may the God bless thee with great liberty, my good friend, began Kobe with an elaborated salute. Yet it does appear they have already been so generous, thou needest not to labor. I rejoice with thee in thy good fortune. More, I would even share it with thee. Pray, easy in the yon shop, extract but two humble shackles and lend them to me until after nobleman feast this night. Thou wilt not miss them ere they are returned. If I did have two shackles, Bansir responded gloomily. To one could I lend them, not even to you, my best of friends, for they would be my fortune, my entire fortune. No one lends his entire fortune, not even to his best friend. What? Exclaimed Kobe with genuine surprise. Thou hast not one shekel in thy purse, yet sit like a statue upon a wall. Why not complete that chariot? How else canst thou provide for thy noble appetite? This not like thee, friend, my friend. Where is thy endless energy? Doth something distress thee? Have the gods brought to thee troubles? A torment from the god it must be, Bansir agreed. It began with a dream, a senseless dream, in which I thought I was the man of means. From my belt hung a handsome purse, heavy with coins. There were shekels which I cast with careless freedom to the beggars, wife, and whatever I did desire for myself. There were pieces of gold which made me feel assured of the future and unafraid to have spent the silver. A glorious feeling of contentment was within me. You would not have known me for thy hard-working friend, nor wouldst have known my wife. So free from wrinkles was her face and shining her with happiness. She was again with the smiling maiden of her early married days. A pleasant dream indeed, commented Kobe, but why should such pleasant feelings as it aroused turn thy in a glum statue upon the wall? Why indeed, because I awoke and remembered how empty was my purse. A feeling of rebellion swept away over me. Let us talk it over together. For as the sailor do say, we ride in the same boat, we two. As youngster, we went together to the priest to learn wisdom. As young men, we shared each other's pleasure. As grown men, we have always been close friends. We have been contented subjects of our kind. We have been satisfied to work long hours and spend our earnings freely. We have earned much coins in the years that have passed, yet to know the joys that come from wealth. We must dream about them. Bah! Are we more than dumb sheep? We live in the richest city in all the world. The travelers do say none equals it in wealth. About us is much display of wealth, but of it we ourselves have not. After half a lifetime of hard work labor, thou, my best of my friends, hast an empty purse and sayest to me, may I borrow such a trifle as 2 shekels until after the nobleman feast this night? Then what do I reply? Do I say, here is my purse, it contents will I gladly share? No, I admit that my purse is as empty as thine. What is the matter? Why cannot we acquire silver and gold more than enough for food and robes? Consider also our son. Bansir continued as they not following the footsteps of their father. Need they and their families and their sons' families live all their lives in the midst of such treasures of gold, and yet, like us, we content to banquet upon sour goat's milk and porridge. Never in all the years of our friendship didst thou talk like this before, Bansir. Kobe was puzzled. Never in those years did I think like this before. From early dawn, early darkness stopped me. Oh, chai break. चलो भाई, चाय के साथ ब्रेड खाओ। और बढ़िया है। ठंडी का टाइम है, आज की तारीख है 18 दिसंबर और दिन है संडे का। If I could, I had. So let's continue again. I have labored to build the finest chariots any man could make, so heartily hoping someday the god would recognize my worthy deeds and bestow upon me great prosperity. This they have never done. At last I realized they will never do. Therefore my heart is sad. I wish to be a means I am willing to work for these things with all the strength in my back, with all the skills in my hands, with all the cunning in my mind, but I wish my labors to fairly rewarded. What is the matter within us with us? What is the matter with us? Again I ask you, why cannot we have our just share of the good things so plentiful for those who have the gold with which we wish to buy them? Would I know an answer sweetly? Not only the king, but the courts themselves would be delighted. But how mayest thou secure it, while we both of us are as poor as the king's slave? Listen to Bell, how they come. He pointed to the long column of half naked, sweating water bearers plodding laboriously up the narrow street from the river. Five abreast they marched, each bent under a heavy goatskin of water. A fine figure of a man, he who doth lead them, Kobe indicated the wearer of the bell who marched in front within a lord, a prominent man in his own country. It's easy to see. There are many good figures in the line. Bansir agreed, as good men as we, tall, blond men from the north, laughing black men from the south, little brown men from the nearer countries, all marching together from the river to the gardens, back and forth, day after day, year after year. Note of the happiness to look forward to. Beds of straw upon which to sleep, hard grains porridge to eat. Pity the poor brutes, Kobe. Pity them I do. Yet thou dost make me see how little better off are we, free men though we call ourselves. This is the truth, Kobe. Unpleasant thought though it be. We do not wish to go on years after years living slavish lives, working, getting nowhere. Might we not find, might we not find out how others acquire gold and do so as they do? Kobe inquired. Perhaps there is some secret we might learn if we but sought from those who knew, replied Bansir thoughtfully. This very day, suggested Kobe, I did not pass our friend Arkad riding in his golden chariot. This I will say, he did not look over my humble head, as many in his station might consider his right. Instead, he did wave his hand that all onlookers might see him pay the greetings and bestow his smiles of friendship upon Kobe the musician. He is claimed to be the richest man in Babylon. Bansir mused, so rich the king is said to seek his golden aid in affairs of the treasury. Kobe replied, so rich, Bansir interrupted, I fear if I should meet him in the darkness of the night, I should lay my hands upon his fat wallet. Nonsense, reproved Kobe. A man's wealth is not in the purse he carries. A fat purse quickly empties if there be no golden stream to refill it. Arkad has an income that constantly keeps his purse full, no matter how liberally he spends. Income, that is the thing. Ejaculated, ejaculated Bansir. I wish an income that will keep flowing into my purse, whether I sit upon the wall or travel to far lands. Arkad must know how a man can make an income for himself, those to suppose it in something he could make clear to a mind as slow as mine. Methinks he did teach his knowledge to his son. No, monsieur, Kobe responded. Did he got no to Nineveh and so it is told at the inn, become without aid from his father, one of the richest men in that city. Kobe, thou bringest to me the rare thoughts. A new light gleamed in Bansi's eyes. It costs nothing to ask. It costs nothing to ask wise advice from a good friend, and Urquhart was always that. Never mind, though our purses be as empty the falcon's nest of years ago. Let that not detain us. We are weary of being without gold in the midst of plenty. We wish to become men of means. Come, let us go to Arcad and ask how we also may acquire incomes for ourselves. Thou speakest with a true inspiration, Bansi. Thou bringest to my mind a new understanding. Thou makest me to realize the reason why we have never found any measure of wealth. We never sought it. Thou hast labored patiently to build the stone-chest chariots in Babylon. To that purpose was devoted your best endeavors. Therefore, as it thou didst succeed, I strive to become a skillful lyre player. and at its time did succeed. In those things toward which we exerted our best endeavors, we succeeded. The gods were content to let us continue this. Now at last we see a light bright like a from the rising sun. It biddeth us to learn more that we may prosper more. With a new understanding, we shall find honorable ways to accomplish our desire. Let us go to Arkat this very day, Bansir argued. Also, let us ask other friends of our boyhood days who have fared no better than ourselves to join us that they too may share in his wisdom. Thou wert ever thus thoughtful of thy friends, Bansir. Therefore hast thou many friends. It shall be as thou sayest. We go this day and take them with us. Chapter 2. The richest man in Babylon was famed for his great wealth, also was be famed for his liberty. Liberty? No. Famed for his liberality. Liberality. He was generous in his chariots. He was generous with his family. He was liberal in his own expenses. But nevertheless, each year his wealth increased more rapidly than he spent it. And there were certain friends of youngster days who came to him and said, You Arkad are more fortunate than we. You have become the richest man in all Babylon while we struggle for existence. You can wear the finest garments and you can enjoy the rarest food, while we must be content if we can clothe our families in raiment that is representable and feed them as best we can. Yet once we were equal. We studied under the same master. We played in the same game and than we. Nor have you worked harder or more faithfully in so far as we can judge. Why then should a fickle fate single you out to enjoy all the good deeds of life and ignore us who are equally deserving? Thereupon the Arkad remonstrated with them, if you have not acquired more than a bare existence in the years since we were youths, fickle fate is a vicious goddess who brings no permanent good to anyone. On the contrary, she brings ruin to almost every man upon whom she showers unearned gold. She makes want on spend who soon dissipate all they receive and are left beset by overwhelming appetites and desires they have not the ability to gratify. Yet others whom she favors become misers and hoard their wealth, fearing to spend what they have, knowing they do not possess the ability to replace it. They further are beset by fears of robbers and doom themselves to live the emptiness and secret misery. Others were probably are who can take the unearned gold and add to it and continue to be happy and contented citizens. But so few are they. I know of them but hearsay. His friends admitted that of men they knew who had inherited wealth, these words were true, and these thoughts were true, and how he had become possessed can continue. In my youth, I looked about me and saw all the good things there were to bring happiness and contentment, and I realized that wealth increased the potency of this all. Wealth is a power. With wealth, many things are possible. One day, ornament the home with the richest of furnishings. One may sail the distant seas. One may feast on the delicacies of far land. One may buy the ornaments of worker and stone polisher. One may even build mighty temples for the gods. One may do all these things and many others in which there is delight for the senses and gratification of soul. And when I realized all this, I decided to myself that I would claim my shares of the good things of life. I would not be one of those who stand afar off, enviously watching others enjoy. I would not be content to clothe myself in the cheapest raiment that looked respectable. I would not be satisfied with the lot of a poor man. On the contrary, I would make myself a guest at this banquet of good things. Being, as you know, the son of a humble merchant, one of the large family with no hope of an inheritance, and not being endowed, as you have frankly said, with superior powers or wisdom, I decided that if I was to achieve what I desired, time and study would be required. As for time, as men have in abundance, you each of you have let slip by sufficient time to have made ours yourself wealthy. Yet you admit you have nothing to show except your good families, of which you can be justly proud. As for study, did not our wise teacher teach us that learning was of two kinds? The one kind being the things we learned and knew, the other kind, the training that taught us how to find out what we did not know. Therefore, did I decide to find out how one might accumulate wealth, and when I had found out to make this my task and do it well, for is it not wise that we should enjoy while we dwell in the brightness of the sunshine, for sorrows enough soul descend upon us when we depart of the darkness of the world of spirit. I found employment as a scribe in the halls of records, and long hours each day I labored upon the clay tablets. Week after week and month after month I labored, yet for my 24 earnings I had not to show. Food and clothing and penance to the gods. Other thing of which I could remember not what observed all my earnings, but my determination did not leave me. And one day Alchemist, the moneylender, came to the house of the city master and ordered a copy of the ninth law. And he said to me, I must have these this in 2 days, and if the task is done by that time, the two coppers will I give to thee. So I labored hard, but the law was long, and when Alchemist returned, the task was unfinished. He was angry, and had I been his slave, he would have beaten me. अगर मैं उसका गुलाम होता, had I been his slave, he would have beaten me. वो मेरे को मारता. But knowing the city master would not permit him to injure me, I was afraid. So I said to him, Alchemist, you are a very rich man. Tell me how I may also become rich, and all night I will carve upon the day, and when the sun rises, it shall be completed. He smiled at me and replied, you are a forward knave, but we will call it a bargain. All that night I carved through my back paint, and the swell of the wick made me headache until my eyes hardly could see. But when he returned at sunup, the tablets were complete. Now, I said, tell me what you promised. You have fulfilled your part of our bargain, my son, he said to me kindly, and I am ready to fulfill mine. I will tell you these things you wish to know because I am becoming an old man, and an old tongue long loves to wag. When youth comes to age for advice, he receives the wisdom. Remember this: the sun that shines today is shining when thy last are bright lights that shine forth, and the meteors that oft make brilliant the sky. But the wisdom of his age is like the fixed stars that shine so unchanged that sailor may depend upon them to steer his course. his course. Mark you well my words, that your night's work has been in vain. Then he looked at me shrewdly, shrewdly from under his shaggy brows and said in a low, forceful tone, I found to road I found the road to wealth. I found the road to wealth when I decided that a part of all I earned was mine to keep. So will you. Then I continued to look at me with a glance that I could feel pierced me but said no more. Is that all? I asked. That was sufficient to change the heart of a sheep herder into the heart of a moneylender, he replied. But all I earn is money to keep, is it not? I demanded. Far from it, he replied. Do you not pay the garment maker? Do you not pay the sandal maker? Do you not pay for the things you eat? Can you live in Babylon without spending? What have you to show for your earnings of the past months? What for the past year, fool? You pay to everyone but yourself. Dullard, you labor for others as well as be a slave and work for what your master gives you to eat and wear. If you did keep my knowledge of numbers did not forsake me, and I answered as much as I earn in 1 year. You speak but half the truth, he retorted. For you, every copper it earns, it is that child that can also earn for you. If you would become wealthy, then what you save must earn, and its children must earn, and that all may help to give to you the abundance you crave. You think I cheat you for long nights' works, he continued, but I am paying you 1,000 times over if you have the intelligence to grasp the truth I offer you. A part of all a part of all you earn is yours to keep. I should be not less than a tenth no matter how little you earn. It can be as much more as you can afford. Pay yourself first. Do not buy from the clothes maker and sandal maker more than you can pay out of the rest, and still have enough for food and charity and penance of the God. Wealth, like a tree, grows from a tiny seed. Wealth, like a seed, grows from a tiny seed. The first copper you save is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner shall the tree grow. As the more faithfully you nourish, and took his tablets and went away. I thought much about what he had said to me, and it seemed each 10 pieces of copper, and hid it away. And strange as it may seem, I was no shorter of funds than before. I noticed little difference as I managed to get along without it, but often I was tempted, as my hoard began to grow, to spend it for some of the good things the merchant displayed brought by Phoenicians. But I wisely refrained. That not less than one tenth of you have earned for the past year, and it's learned. Master about jewels. Would you go to bread maker? The days are gone, youth. You have jerked your wealth tree up by the roots. But plant another. Try again, and next time, if you would have advised about jewels, go to the jewel merchant. If you would know the truth about sheep, go to a herdsman. Advice is one thing that is freely given away, but what only is worth having. He who takes advice about his savings from one who is inexperienced in such matters shall pay his savings for providing the falsity of their opinions. Saying this, he and sold to Azmur worthless bits saved again each tenth copper, for I had For I now had formed the habit and it was no longer difficult. Again, 12 months later, Alchemy, I have paid myself faithfully, I replied, and my savings I have entrusted to Agar, the shield maker, to buy bronze. And each fourth month he does pay me the rental. That is good. And what do you do with the rental? I do have a great fish with honey and fine wine and spiced cake. Also, I have bought me a scarlet tunic, and someday I shall buy me a young ass upon which to ride. To which Alchemist laughed, you do eat the children of your savings. अच्छा इसका ये पहले पहले जो अपना कमाते हो उसमें से सेव करो, चिल्ड्रन है। तो ये बोल रहा है कि जो सेविंग का पैसा है और जो सेविंग से मिला हुआ पैसा उसके चिल्ड्रन है उसको भी और लगा दो काम पे। हम्म सही है। एंड हाउ कैन दे have children that will also work for you? First get thee an army of golden slaves and then marry, and then many a rich banquet may you enjoy without a regret. So saying, nor did I again see him for 2 years, when he once more returned, and his face was full of deep lines, and his eyes drooped, for he was becoming a very old man. And he said to me, Arkad, hast thou yet achieved the wealth thou dreamed of? And I answered, not yet. All that I desire, but some I have, and I it earns more, and its earn more. And do you still take the advice of brickmakers about the brick making? They good advice, I retorted. Arkad, Arkad, you learn to seek advice, and lastly, and how to use it. You being an old man, my son thinks only of give you to if you will go. So I went to Nippur and took charge of his holdings, which were large, and because I was full of ambition and because I had mastered the three laws of successfully handling wealth, departed for the sphere of darkness. I did share in his estate as he arranged under the law. So spake I here. Fortunate only in that I had the desire to prosper before I met him. For thus did I not prove my definiteness, नहीं, and would you call it a fisherman lucky who for years so studied the habits of the fish that with each changing wind he could cast his nets about. haughty haughty goddess who wasted no had of course a pebble. On the seventh day I passed by without remembering. I would not say to myself, tomorrow I will cast two pebbles, which will do as well. Instead, I would retrace my steps and cast the pebble. Nor on the 20th day would I say to myself, Harkat, this is useless. What does it avail you to cast a pebble every day? Throw it in a handful and be done with it. No, I would not say that, nor do it. When I set a task for myself, I complete it. Therefore, I am careful not to start difficult and impractical tasks because I love leisure. And then another friend spoke up and said, if what you tell is true, and it does seem as you have said reasonable, then being so simple, if all men did it, there would not be enough wealth to go around. Wealth grows wherever men exert energy. Urquhart replied, wealth grows wherever men exert energy. If a rich man builds him a new palace, is the gold he pays outgone? No. The brickmaker has part of it, and the laborer has part of it, and the artist has part of it, and everyone who labors upon the house has part of it. Yet when the palace is completed, Is it not worth all its costs? And is the ground upon which it stands not worth more because it is there? And is the ground that adjoins it not worth more because it is there? Wealth grows in magic ways. No man can prophesy each hour of every day. Say it to yourself until the words stand out like a letters of fire across the sky. Impress yourself with the idea, fill yourself with the thought. Take whatever portion seems wise. Let it be let it be no not less than one tenth and lay it by. Arrange your other expenditures to do this if necessary, but lay by that portion first. Soon you will realize what a rich feeling it is to own a treasure upon which you alone have claim. As it grows, it will stimulate you. A new joy of life will thrill you. Greater efforts will come to you and earn more, for your increased earning will look thou the aged, and forget not that in the days to come thou you'll also be numbered among them. Therefore invest thy treasure with greatest caution, thou it be not lost. It not be thou it be not lost. Usurious rates of return are deceitful sirens that sing but no lures, but to lure the unwary upon the rocks of loss and remorse. Provide also that thy family may not want the gods call thee to their realms. For such protection, it is always possible to make provision with the small payments at some becoming available. For such, I am save you from such an error as I made myself, and a safe one is far more desirable than risk. Enjoy life while you are here. Do not overstrain and try to save too much. If one tenth of you earn is as much you can comfortably keep, be content to keep this portion. Live otherwise according to your income, and let not yourself get niggardly and afraid to spend. Life is good. Thanked him and went away. Some were silent and because they had no imagination and could not understand. Sarcastic because they thought that one new light into life. These latter gladly always them in so lost nor entangled in the turning point in this man's life came upon the a part of all you earn is yours to keep. 3 begins जिनके पतले बटुए होते हैं its reputation was as the richest Babylon after defeating his enemies, the Alemanni. It filtered through the finger of most of our people and quickly as the goat's milk goes through the strainer. Now that the stream of gold has ceased to flow, most of our people have nothing to a man for succeeding because he has a fairly earned to give. They know better. Arcus and 10. So it is reported your much the gold they receive. It is my desire that Babylon is the wealthiest city in the world. Therefore, it must be a city of many wealthy men. Therefore, we the people how to acquire riches. Which one? King's eyes glowed. Urged, thou speakest the words I wish to hear. Wilt thou lend thyself to the great cause? Wilt thou teach thy knowledge to a school for a teachers in my domain? Arcot bowed and said, I am thy humble servant to command. Whatever knowledge I possesses, will I in order. Behold, the richest man in Babylon, whispered a student, nudging his neighbor as Arcot arose. He is but a man, even as the rest of us. As a dutiful subject of our great king, Arcot began. I stand before you is in his service, because once I was poor youth who did greatly desire gold, because I found knowledge the best way. The first storehouse of my treasure was a well purse. I it loathed its useless emptiness. I desired it to be round and full, clinking with the sound of gold. Therefore, I sought every remedy for a lean purse. I found seven. To you who are assembled before me, shall I explain the 7 cures for a lean purse, which I do recommend to all men who desire much gold. Each day for 7 days will I explain to you one of the 7 remedies. Listen attentively to the knowledge that I will impart. Debate it with me. Discuss it among yourself. Learn these lessons thoroughly, that ye may also plant in your own purse the seed of wealth. First must each of you start wisely to build a fortune of his own. Then will thou be competent, and only then to teach these truths to others. I shall teach to you in simple ways how to fatten your wealth, fatten your purse. This is the first step leading to the temple of wealth, and no man may climb who cannot plant his feet firmly upon the first step. We shall now consider this first cure. The first cure: start thy purse to fattening. Okay, to fattening. Arkad addressed a thoughtful man in the second row. My good friend, at what craft workest thou? I, replied the man, am a scribe and a carve record upon the clay tablets. Even at such labor did I myself earn my first coppers. Therefore, thou hast the same opportunity to build a fortune. He spoke to a florid faced man farther back. Pray them also what thou to earn thy bread. I, responded this man, am a meat butcher. I do not buy the goats from the farmers raise and kill them. I do buy the goats from farmers, raise and kill them, and sell the meat to the housewives and the hides to the sandal maker. Hides क्या होता है देखते हैं. To the sandal maker, because thou dost also labor and earn, thou hast every advantage to succeed that I did possess. In this way did Arkat proceed to find out how each man labored to earn his living. When he had done questioning them, he said, now, my students, ye can see that there are many trades and labors at which men may earn coins. Each of the ways of the earning is a stream of gold from which the worker doth divert by his labors a portion of it to his own purse. Therefore, into the purse of each of you flows a stream of coins large or small according to his ability. Is it not so? Thereupon they agreed that it was so. Then continued Arkad, if each of you desireth to build for yourself of himself a fortune, is it knows why to start by utilizing that source of wealth which he already has established. To this they agreed. Then Urquhart turned to a humble man who had declared himself an egg merchant. If thou select one of thy basket and put into it each morning 10 eggs, and take out from each from it each evening 9 eggs, what will eventually happen? It will become in time overflowing. It will become in time overflowing. Why? Because each day I put in I put in one more egg than I take out. I smiled. Does any man here have a lean purse? First they looked amused, then they laughed. Lastly, they waved their purse in jest. All right, he continued. Now, as I tell you, the first remedy to I learned to cure the lean purse. Do exactly I have suggested to the egg merchant. For every 10 coin thou placed within thy purse, take out for use but 9. Thy purse will start to fatten at once. It is increasingly weight will feel good in thy hands and bring satisfaction to thy soul. Deride not what I say because of its simplicity. Truth is always simple. I told thee I would tell how built my fortune. This was my beginning. I too carried a lean purse and cursed it because there was nothing within to satisfy my desires. But when I began to take out from my purse but 9 parts, often I put it began to fatten. So will thine. Now I will tell a strange truth, the reason for which I know not. When I ceased to pay out more than 9 tenths, also ere long did coins come to me more easily than before. Surely it is a law of gods that unto him who keepeth and spendeth not a certain part of his all earnings, soul gold come more easily. Likewise, him whose purse is empty does avoid gold avoid. While desirest thou the most? Is it the gratification of thy desires of each day, a jewel, a bit of finery, better raiment, more goods, merchandise, income bringing investments? The coins thou takest from the purse bring the first, the coins thou leavest within it will bring the latter. This, my students, the first debate this amongst yourself. If any man proves it untrue, meet again. The second cure, control thy expenditure. Some of your members, my students, asked, have asked, asked, have asked me this. How can a man keep 1/10 of his all he earns in his purse when all the coins he earns are not enough for his necessary expense? So did Arcad address his students upon the second day. Yesterday, how many of thee carried lean purses? All of you, answered the class. Yet, though do not all earn the same. Some earn much more than others. Some have much larger families to support. Yet all purses were equally lean. Now I will tell you the an unusual truth about men and sons of men. It is this, that what each calls our necessary expenditure will always grow to equal our income unless we protest to the contrary. Confuse not the necessary expenses with thy desires. Each of you together will your good families have more desires than your earnings can gratify. Therefore are thy earnings spent to gratify these desires in so far as they will go. Still thou desires than they can gratify. Oh my god, what a line. All men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. This idea, there are limits to my time. There are limits to my strength. There are limits to the distance I may travel. There are limits to what I may eat. There are limits to the jest with which I may enjoy. I say to you that just as weeds grow in a field wherever the farmers leave a space for their roots, even so freely do desire grow in men wherever there is a possibility of their being gratified. Thy desires are a magnitude multitude, and those that thou mayest gratify are but few. Study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Herein may be most often found certain accepted expenses that may wisely be reduced or eliminated. Let thou motto be 100% of the appreciated value demanded for each coin spent. The clay, each thing for which length attitude of desires that must go unsatisfied and regret them not. Budget then thy necessary expenses. Touch not the one cent that is fattening thy purse. Let this be the great desires that is being fulfilled. Keep working with thy budget, keep adjusting it to the help thee, make it to thy first assistant in defending thy fattening purse. Hereupon one of the students, wearing a robe of red and gold, and arose and said, I am a free man. I believe I believe that it is my right to enjoy the good things in life. Therefore, I do rebel against the slavery of the budget will determine that just how much I may spend and for what. I feel it would take much pleasure from my life and make me little more than a speck as to carry a burden myself, responded the protesting one. In that case, for a pack as to budget, his burden would be include therein jewels and rugs and heavy bars of gold. Not so. He would include hay and grain, a bag of water for the desert trail. The purpose of a budget is to help thy purse to fatten. It is to assist thee to have the thy necessities and infosophired and as attainable. Thy other desires, it is to enable thee to realize the most cherished desires by defending them from the casual wishes. Like a bright light in a dark cave, thy budget shows up the leaks from the purse and enables thee to stop them and control thy expenditures for definite and gratifying purposes. This then is the second cure for a lean purse. Budget thy expenses that thou mayest have going to pay for thy necessities, to pay for thy enjoyments, and to gratify thy worldwide desire without spending more than 9/10 of thy earnings. The third cure, make thy gold multiply. Behold, thy lean purse is fattening. Thou hast disciplined thyself to link therein 1/10 of thou earned. Thou hast controlled thy expenditures to protect thy crown treasures. Next, we will consider means to put thy pleasure to labor and to increase. Gold in a purse is gratifying to own, and satisfied is a mere miserly soul but earn nothing. The gold we may refrain from our earning is but the start. The earnings it will make shall habit our fortunes. So spoke Urquhart upon the third day of his day. How therefore may we put our gold to work? My first investment was unfortunate, for I lost all. Its tale I will relate later. My first profitable investment was a loan I made to a man named Agar, a shield maker. Once each year did he buy large shipments of bronze brought from across the sea to use his trade, lacking sufficient capital to pay the merchants. He would borrow from those who had extra coins. He was an honorable man. His borrowings he would repay, together with liberal rental as he sold his shields. Each time I loaned to him, each time I loaned to him, I loaned back also the rental he has paid to me. Therefore, not only did my capital increase, but its earning likewise increased. Most gratifying was it to have the sums returned to my purse. I tell you, my students, a man's wealth is not the coins he carries in his purse, it is the income he built, the golden stream that continually flows into his purse and keeps it always bulging. This is what every man desireth. This is what thou each one of thee desired, an income that continued to come whether thou work or travel. Great income I have acquired, so great that I am called a very rich man. My loans to Agar were my first training in the profitable investment. Gaining wisdom from this experience, I extended my loans and invested as my capital increased. From a few sources at first, from many sources later, flowed into my purse a gold. So they for his son until he became 20 years of age. This the money lender did and agreed the rental should be one fourth of its value each 4 years. The farmer asked of silver had now grown paid the son in settlement 167 pieces of silver. Thus, in 50 years, had the investment multiplied itself in that rental almost 17 times. This then is the third cure for a lean purse put each coin to laboring to put each coin to laboring that it may reproduce it kind flocks of the field and help bring to the income be lost. Thus was with larger. So spoke Arkad upon the fourth day of to his class. Every owner of gold is tempted by opportunities whereby it would seem that his wisdom of those such is its actual value if it save thee from loss. And of great importance if it prevent thy purse from being emptied once it has become well filled. Guard thy treasure from loss by investing only by where thy principal is safe, where it may be reclaimed if desirable, and where thou wilt not fail to collect a fair rental. Consult with wise men, secure the advice of those experienced in the profitable hand. No place they do not have a only blossom but good riches herbs to feed her family. To a man's heart, it brings gladness to eat the figs from his own trees and the grapes of his own vines. To own his to own his own domicile and to have it a place he provide proud to care for. Put confidence in his heart and greater effort behind all these endeavors. Therefore, do I recommend that every man owns the roofs that I sheltered him and his, nor is it beyond the bounty of own home unused and may be purchased at sums more most consider the desires of men who seek homes and builder for such commendable purposes. If thou canst sow a reasonable portion of the necessary sum which self hath provided for the provided for the purpose, then why the house is built, thou canst pay the moneylender with the same regularity as thou didst pay the landlord, because each payment will reduce thou indebtedness to the moneylender. A few years will satisfy his loan. Then will thy heart be glad, because thy will own in thy own right a valuable property, and thy only cost will it the king's taxes. ये वाला पैराग्राफ समझ नहीं आया बिल्कुल भी, दाय दाय दो दाय कर रहा है होम. The life of every man proceedeth from his experience to his old age. This is the path of life, and no man may deviate from it unless the God can call him prematurely to the world beyond. Therefore, I say that it behooves a man to make preparation for a suitable income in the days to come, when he is no longer young, and to make preparation for his family should he be no longer with them to comfort and support them. This lesson shall instruct thee in the providing a full purse when time has made thee less labels to learn. So Arcad addressed his class upon the sixth day. The man who, because of his understanding of the laws of wealth, acquired a growing surplus, should give thought of those futures. He should plan certain investments or provisions that may endure safely for many years, yet will be available when the time arrives, which he has so wisely anticipated. There are diverse ways by which a man may provide with safety for his future. He may provide a hiding place and therefore bury a secret treasure. Yet no man, with that what skill it be hidden, it may nevertheless become the loot of thieves. For this reason, I recommend not this plan, as to their usefulness and value in the future. They are permanent in their their sales will provide well for this purpose. Which the money lenders add to this will largely add to its income. Named Anson, who explained to me not long ago that each week for 8 years he had deposited with his moneylender 2 pieces of silver. The moneylender had but recently given me an accounting over which he greatly rejoiced. The total of his all small deposit with their rental at the custom that I might say more about this. In my mind rests a belief that someday wise thinking men will devise a plan to ensure against that, whereby many men pay in but a trifling sum regularly, the aggregate making the aggregate making a handsome sum for the family of each member who passed to the beyond. This too I see as something desirable and which I could highly recommend. But today it is not possible because it must reach beyond the life of any man or any partnership to operate. It must be as stable as king's throne. Someday do I feel that such a plan shall come. Small payment will make available a snug fortune for the family of a member should he pass on. Because we live in our own days and not in the days which are to come, must we take advantage of those means and ways to accomplishing our purposes. Therefore do I recommend pearls in their mature years. Head is a sore tragedy. Then this is the sixth cure for a lean purse. Provide in advance for the needs of thy growing age and protection of thy family. The seventh cure. This day do I speak to thy mine students of one of the most vital remedies for a lean purse. Yet I will talk not to gold but of yourself, of the men beneath the robes of many colors who do sit before me, and I will talk to you of those things with not his earnings were insufficient to pay his expenses. Their opponents possessed no surplus earning capacity to repay the loan. To increase thy capacity to earn. All that can I do, he replied, 6 times within 2 moons have I approached my master to request my pay be increased, but without success. No man can go oftener than that. Seventh, thy ability to earn. Thy desire must be strong and definite. General desires are but weak longings. For a man to wish to be rich is of little purpose. For a man to desire 5 pieces of gold is a tangible desire which he can press to fulfillment. After he has backed his desire for 5 pieces of gold with the strength of purpose to secure it, next he can find similar ways to obtain 10 pieces and then 20 pieces and then a later 1,000 pieces. Behold, he has become wealthy in learning to secure his one definite small desire. He hath trained himself to secure a larger one. Thus is the process by which wealth is accumulated, first in small sums, then in larger ones, and as a man learns and becomes more capable, desires must be simple and definite. They defeat their own purpose should they be too many, too confusing, or beyond a man's training to accomplish. As a man perfect himself in his callings, even so doth his ability to earn increase. In those years when I was humble scribe, carving upon the clay for a few coppers each day, I observed that other workers did more than I and were to paid more. Therefore did I determine that I would be exceeded by none. Nor did it take long for me to discover the reason for their greater success. More interest in my work, more concentration upon my task, more persistence in my effort. And behold, few men could carve more tablets in a day than I. With reasonable promptness, my increased skill was rewarded, nor was it necessary for me to go 6 times to my masters to request recognition. The more of wisdom we know, the more we may earn. That man who seeks to learn more of his craft shall be richly rewarded. If he is an artisan, he may seek to learn the methods and the tools of those most skillful in the same line. If he laboreth at the law or at healing, he may consult and exchange knowledge with others of his calling. If he be a merchant, he may continually seek better goods that can be purchased at lower prices. Always do the affairs of men always do the affairs of man change and improve because keen-minded men seek greater skill that they may better serve those upon those patronage they depend. Therefore, I urge all men to be in front rank to progress and not to stand still, lest they be left behind. नहीं तो many things come to a man's life rich with gainful experiences. Such things as the following a man must do if he is respectful himself. He must pay his debt with all the promptness within his power, not purchasing that for which he is unable to pay. He must take care of his family that they may think and speak well of him. He may must he must make a will of recourse that in case of God's call him proper and honorable division of his property be accomplished. He must have compassion upon those who are injured and smitten by misfortune and aid them within reasonable limits. He must do deeds of thoughtfulness and those dear to him. Thus, the seventh and last remedy for a lean purse is to cultivate thy own powers, to study and become wiser, to become more skillful to so act as to respect thyself. Thereby shalt thou acquire confidence in thyself to achieve thy carefully considered desires. These then are the seven cures for a lean purse, which, out of experience of a long and successful life, I do urge for all men who desire their wealth. There is more gold in Babylon, my students, than thou dreamest of. There is abundance for all. Go thou forth and practice these truths, that thou mayest prosper and grow wealthy, as it thy right. Go thou forth and teach these truths, that every honorable subject of His Majesty may also share liberally in the ample wealth of our beloved city. Chapter 4. Meet the goddess of good luck. Meet the goddess of good luck. If a man be lucky, there is no foretelling the foreseeable extent of his good fortune. Pitch him the Euphrates, pitch him into the Euphrates, and like as not he will swim out with a pearl in his hands. Babylonian proverb. The desire to be lucky is universal. It was just as strong in the breast of a man 4,000 years ago in ancient Babylon as it is in the hearts of men today. We all hope to be favored by the whimsical goddess of good luck. Is there any some way we can meet her and attract not only her favorable attention but the generous favors? Is there a way to attract good luck? That is just what the man of ancient Babylon wished to know. It is exactly what they decided to find out. They were shrewd men and keen thinkers. That explains why their city became the richest and most powerful. They had no schools or colleges, nevertheless, one that ranked in importance with the palace, more likely no mention at all, yet it exerted a powerful influence upon wisdom of past was expounded by voluntary teachers and where the subjects of popular interest were discussed in open forums. Within its within its wall, all men met as equal. The humblest of slaves impunity could dispute with impunity the opinions of a prince of the royal house. Among the many who frequented the temple of learning was a wise rich man named Arkad, called the richest man in Babylon. He had his own special hall where almost any evening large very young but mostly middle-aged gathered gathered to discuss and argue interesting subject. Suppose we listen in to see whether they knew how to attract good luck. The sun had just set like a great red ball of fire shining through the haze of desert dust when Urquhart strolled to his accustomed platform. Already full fourscore men were awaiting his arrival, reclining on their small rugs spread upon the floor. More were still arriving. What shall we discuss this night? Urquhart inquired. After a brief hesitation, a tall cloth a tall cloth weaver addressed him, arising as was the custom. I have a subject I would like to hear discussed, yet hesitate to offer, lest it seem ridiculous to you, Arkad, and many good friends here. Upon being urged to offer it, both my both by Arkad and by calls from the others. He continued, "This day I think that all men share with me is worthy of our discussion. To some men, good luck peace speaks, but a chance happening that, like an accident, may befall one without full may fall bounteous goddess Aster, ever anxious to reward with of my friends. Good luck may be enticed to eager listeners. Thereupon, Arkad asked continued. Thereupon, Harkat continued, "To start our discussion, let us first hear from those among us who have enjoyed experiences similar to that of the cloth weaver in finding or receiving without effort upon their part valuable treasures or jewels." There was a pause in which all looked about expecting someone to reply, but no one did. But no one, Arcot said. Then rare intended must be this kind of good luck, who now will offer a suggestion as to where we shall continue our search. That I will do, spoke a robed young man, arising. When a man speaketh of luck, is it not natural that his thoughts turn to the gaining table? Is it not there we find many men courting the favor of the goddess in hopes he will bless them with rich winnings? As he assumed as he resumed his seat, a voice called, "Do not stop. Continue thy story. Tell us, didst thou find favor with the goddess at the gaming table? Did she turn her lips to come up so the dealer in thy high hard earned pieces of silver?" The young man joined the young man joined the good natured laughter, then replied, "I am not averse to admitting she seemed not to know I was even there. But how about the rest of you? Have you found her waiting about such places to roll the cubes in your favor? We are eager to hear as well as to learn." A wise start broke in Arkad. "We meet here to consider all sides of each question. To ignore the gaming table would be to overlook an instinct common to most men, the love of taking a chance with a small amount of silver in the hope of winning much gold. That goth, that goth reminded me of the races but yesterday," called out another listener. "If the goddess frequents the gaming table, certainly she dost not overlook the races where the gilded chariots and the foaming horse offer far more excitement. Tell us honestly, Arkad, did she whisper to you to place your bet upon those grey horses from Nineveh yesterday? I was standing just behind thee and could scarce believe my ears. Then I heard the place thy bet upon the grace. Thou knowest as well any of us that no team in all Assyria can beat our beloved base in fair race. Didst the goddess whisper in thy ears to bet upon the grey because at the last turn the inside black would stumble and so interfere with our base that the greys would win the race and score an unearned victory. Urquhart smiled indulgently at the banter. What reason have we feel to good poor goddess would take that much interest in any man's bet upon a horse race? To me, she is a goddess of love and affections. Perhaps not all the time will he be rewarded because sometimes his judgment may be faulty and other times the winds and the weather may defeat his efforts, yet he, if he persists, he may usually expect to realize his profit. This is so because the chances of profit are always in his favor. But when a man plays the game, the situation is reversed, for the chances of profit are always against him, always in the favor of the gamekeeper. The game is so arranged that it will always favor the keeper. It is his business at which he plans to make a liberal profit for himself from the coins bet by the players. Few players realize how certain are the gamekeeper's profit and how uncertain are their own chances to win. For example, let us consider wagers placed upon the cubes. Each time each time it is cast, we bet which side will be uppermost. If it be the red side of the game, master pays us four times our bet. But if any other of the five sides come uppermost, we lose our bet. Thus, the figure shows that each cast we have five chances to lose. But because the red pays four for one, we have four chances to win. In a night's play, the game master can expect to keep his profit one fifth of the whole coins wagered. Can a man expect to win more than occasionally against odds so arranged that he should lose one fifth of all his bets? Yet some men do win in large sums at times, volunteered one of the listeners. Quite so, do so. Arcot continued, realizing this. The questions comes to me whether money or secured in such ways bring permanent value to those who are thus lucky. Among may my acquaintances acquaintances are many of the successful men of Babylon. Yet among them I am unable to name a single one who started his success from a such source. Who you who are gathered here tonight know how many more of substantial citizen to me would it be of much interest of learn how many of our successful citizens can credit the gaming tables with their start to success. Suppose each of you tell of those you know what you say. After a prolonged silence, a vague ventured. Wouldst thy inquiry include the gamekeepers if you think of no one else? Arkad responded. If not one of you to, if not one of you can think of anyone else, then how about yourself? Are there any consistent winners with us who hesitate to advise such a source of for their incomes? His challenge was answered by a sir. It would seem we are not wallets. Neither have we found it haunting the gaming table. As to the races, I must confess to have lost far more coins there than I have ever won. Now, suppose we consider our trades and businesses. Is it not natural if we conclude a profitable transaction to consider it not good luck but just a reward for our efforts? I am inclined to think we may be overlooking the gifts of the goddess. Perhaps she really does assist us. We do not appreciate her generosity. Who can suggest further discussions? Thereupon an elderly merchant arose, smoothing his genteel white robe. With thy permission, most honorable Arkad and my friends, I offer a suggestion. If, if, as you have said, we take credit to our own industry and ability for our business success, why not consider the successes we almost enjoyed, but which escaped us? Happenings which would have been most profitable. They would have been rare examples of good luck if they had actually happened. Because they were not brought to fulfillment, we cannot consider them as our just rewards. Surely many men here have such experiences to relate. Here is a wise approach. Arkad proved. Who among you have had good luck within your grasp only to see in escape? Many hands were raised, among them among them that of the merchant. Arkad mentioned to speak to him. As you suggested this approach, we should we should like to hear from you. I will gladly relate a tale. He resumed that doth illustrate illustrate how closely unto a man good luck may approach and how blindly he may permit it to escape, much to his loss and later regret. Many years ago, when I was a young man, I just married and well started to earning, my father did come to me one day and urged most strongly that I enter in an and urged most strongly that I enter in an investment. The son of one of his good friends had taken notice of barren tract of land not far beyond the outer walls of the city. It lay high above the canal where no water could reach it. The son of my father's friend devised a plan to purchase this land, build three large built build three large water wheels that could be operated by oxen and thereby raise the life-giving waters to the fertile soil. This accomplished, he planned to divide into small tracts and sell to the residents of the city for herbs patches. The son of my father's friend did not possess sufficient gold to complete such an understanding. Like myself, he was a young man earning to fare some. His father, like mine, was a man of a large family and a small means. He therefore decided to entrust a group of men to enter the enterprise with him. The group was to comprise 12, each of whom must be money earner and agree to pay one tenth of his earning into the enterprise until the land was made ready for sale. All would then share justly in the profits in the portion of their investments. Thou, my son, bespoke my father unto me, art now in thy young manhood. It is my deep desire that thou begin the building of a valuable estate for myself, that thou mayest become respected among men. I desire to see thou profit from a knowledge of the thoughtless mistakes of thy father. This do I most ardently desire. My father, I replied, thy words are words of wisdom, my father. Greatly do I desire riches. Yet there are many uses to many earnings are called. Therefore do I hesitate to do as thou dost advise. I am young, there is plenty of time. So I thought at thy age, yet behold, many years have passed, and I have not yet made the beginning. We live in a different age, my father. I shall avoid thy mistakes. Opportunity stands before you, my son. It is offering a chance that may lead to wealth. I beg of thee, do not delay. Go upon the tomorrow to the son of my friend and bargain with him to pay 10% of thy earning into this investment. Go promptly upon the tomorrow. Opportunity waits for no man. Today it is here, soon it is gone. Therefore, delay not. In spite of the advice of my father, I did hesitate. There were beautiful new robes just brought by my tradesmen from the east, robes of such richness and beauty of my good wife, and I felt we must each possess one. Should I agree to pay one tenth of my earning into the enterprise, we must deprive ourselves of these and other pleasures we dearly desire. I delayed making a decision until it was too late, much to my subsequent regret. The enterprise did prove to be more profitable than any man has prophesied. This is my tale, showing how I did permit good luck to escape. In this tale, we see how good luck waits to come and so that man accepts opportunity. Commented a swarthy man of the desert to the building of an estate, there must always be the beginning. That start may be a few pieces of gold or silvers which a man diverts from his earning to his first investment. To the first investment. I myself am the owner of many herds. The start of my herds I did begin when I was a mere boy and did purchase with one piece of silver of a young calf. Then, being the beginning of my wealth, was a great importance to me. To take his to take his first start to building an estate is a good luck as can come to many men. With all men, that first step which changes them from men who earn from their own labor to men who draw dividends from the earnings of their gold is important. Some fortunately take it when young and thereby outstrip in financial success those who take it later, and those unfortunate men, like the father of this merchant, who never take it. Had our friend the merchant taken this step in his early manhood when this opportunity came to him, this day he would be blessed with much more of this world's goods. Should be good luck of our friends with cloth weaver cause him a take cause him to take such a step at this time. It will indeed be but the beginning of much greater good fortune. Thou, thank you. I like to speak also. A stranger sent a name. Maybe you think it's not polite this name. Yet I wish to call him that. But as alas, I do not know your word for it. If I call it in Syrian, you will not understand. Therefore, please, some good gentleman, tell me the right name you call man who put off the man who put off man who puts off doing those things that mighty good for me. Procrastinator. called a voice. That's him, shouted the Syrian, waving his hand excitedly. He accepts not opportunity when she comes. He waits. He says, I have much business right now. By and by I talk to you. Opportunity, she will not wait for such a slow fellow. She thinks of a man desires to be lucky, he will step quickly. Any man not quick, any man not step quick when an opportunity comes. He big procrastinator like our friend, this merchant. The merchant aroused admiration and horses. Sometimes I do also buy sheep and goats. The tale I am about to relate will tell truthfully how opportunity came one night when I did least expect it. Perhaps for this reason I did let it escape. Of this you shall be judged. Returning to the city one evening after a disheartening 10 days journey in search of camels, I was much angered to find the gates of the city closed and locked. While my slaves spread our tent for the night, which we looked to spend with little food and no eye water, I was approached by an elderly farmer who, like ourselves, found himself locked outside. Honored sir, he answered me, from thy appearance, I do judge thee to be a buyer. If alas, my good friend, good wife, I must, and I did glad to bargain with him. Walk through the city gates in the morning and sell at a substantial profit. The bargain concluded, I called my slaves to bring torches that we might count the flock, which the farmer declared to contain 900. I shall not burden you, my friend, with a description of our difficulty in attempting to count so many thirsty, restless, milling sheep. It proved to be an impossible task. Therefore, I bluntly informed the farmer I would count them at daylight and paid him them. Please, most honorable sir, he pleaded, pay me but two-thirds of the price tonight that I may be on my way. I will leave my most intelligent and educated slave to assist to make the count in the morning. He is trustworthy, and too thou canst pay the balance. But I was stubborn and refused to make payment that night. Next morning, before I awoke, the city gates opened and four buyers rushed out in search of flocks. They were most eager and willing to pay high prices because the city was threatened with siege and the food was not plentiful. Nearly the three times the price at which he had offered, and the flock to me did the old farmer received for it. Thus was rare good luck except allowed to escape. Here is a tale most usual, commented Arkad. What wisdom doth it suggest? The wisdom of making a payment immediately when we are convinced our bargain is wise, suggested a vulnerable saddle maker. If the bargain be good, then do thou need protection against thy own weakness as much as against any other man. We mortals are changeable, alas I must say more apt to change our minds when right than wrong. Wrong we are stubborn indeed, right we are prone to valley, vacillate and let opportunity escape. My first judgment is my best, yet always have I found it difficult to compel yourself to proceed with a good bargain when made. Therefore, as a protection against my own weaknesses. I do make a prompt in mind for same reason. Each time she came to procrastinator, bringing good plan. Each time they hesitated, not say right now best time. I do it quick. How can a man? How can men succeed that way? Wise are thy words, my friend. Responded the buyer. Good luck fled from procrastinator in both these tales. Yet this is not usual. The spirit of procrastination is within all men. From within, thought urge. Worst, I did think at first it was my own poor judgment that did cause me loss. At last, I did recognize it for what it was, the habit of needless delaying where action was required, action prompt and to ask from nation, nations whisper in your ears. Like our friend the buyer, I also had to recognize and conquer procrastination and willing to divert my accomplishments. The tale I did relate to is but one of the most similar instances I could tell to show how it drove away my opportunities. This not difficult to conquer. Once understood, no man willingly permits the thief to rob his bins of grain, nor does any man willingly permit an enemy to drive away his customers and rob him of his profit. When once I did recognize that such acts as this my enemy was committing, with determination I conquered him. So must every man master his own spirit of procrastination before he can expect to share in the riches treasures of Babylon. Rich treasures of Babylon. What sayest, Arkad? Because thou art the richest man in the Babylon. Many do proclaim thee to be the luckiest. Dost agree with me that no man can arrive at full measures of success until he hath completely crushed the spirit of procrastination within him. During my long life, I have watched generation following generation marching forward along those avenues of trade, served theirs, and moved steadily to the gratification to behind. Urquhart turned to the cloth weaver. How did different light? Now I do realize such happenings are not the sort of things one may attract to himself. From our discussion, have I learned that to attract good luck to oneself, if it is necessary to take advantage of opportunities. Therefore, in the friend, the buyer likewise would have enjoyed good luck had he completed the purchase of the flock and sold at such a handsome profit by the god of goddess of good luck. Chapter 5. The Five Laws of Gold. A heavy bag with a gold and a clay tablet carved with the words of wisdom. If thou hadst thy choice, which wouldst thou choose? By the flickering light from the fire of desert shrubs, the sun-tanned faces the listeners gleamed with interest. The gold, the gold. Chorused the 27. Old Kalabab smiled knowingly. Hark, he resumed, raising his hands. Hear the wild anger, yet feed them Yet, yet, feed them, and what do they? Fight and strut. Then fight and strut more, giving no thoughts to the morrow. Then will surely come. That will surely come. Just so it is with the sons of men. Give them a choice of gold or wisdom. What do they do? Ignore the wisdom, waste the gold. On the morrow they wail because they have no more gold. Gold is reserved for those who know its laws and abide by them. Kalabab drew his white robe close and his lean legs for a cool night upon our long journey of the desert because of these night the tales of the five laws of gold, such a tale as thou never hast and heed them in the days that come thou shalt have much gold. He posed impressively. Above is a canopy of blue. The stars shone brightly in the crystal skies of Babylonia. Behind the group loomed their faded tents tightly stacked against possible desert storm. Beside and chewing their cuds contentedly, others snoring in house discord. Thou hast told us many good tales, Kalabab, spoke up the chief packer. We took to thy wisdom to guide us upon the morrow when our service with thy shall be at end. I have but told thy of my adventures in man. Much have we heard of him, acknowledged the chief packer, for he was the richest man that ever lived in Babylon. The richest man he was, and that because he was wise in the ways of gold, even as no man had ever been many years ago. Chap chap lad मतलब कम उम्र का great runs, each one to the tired by Nomasir until his choice of colors was satisfied. At last he was well pleased and commanded to the nostrils and most warming to my stomach, which was accustomed to such a drink. Shall tell it to you. Custom, as you know, the sons of wealthy fathers lived with their parents in expectation of inheriting the estate. Urquhart did not approve of this custom. Therefore, when Namasir reached man estate, he sent for the young man and addressed him, my son, it is my desire that thou succeed to my to start thee well. If thy this bag of gold, I thou use it wisely. I thou use it wisely. It will be the basis of the future success. This clay tablet upon which is carved the five laws of 10 years from this day come thou back to the house of father and worthy. I will then make thy to my estate. Otherwise, I will give to the priests that they may barter for my soul the land consideration of the gods. So Nomasir went forth to make his own fortune, taking his bag of gold, the clay tablet carefully wrapped in silken cloth, he, his slave, and horses upon which they rode. The 10 years passed, and Nomasir, as he had agreed, returned to the house of his father, who provided a a great feast in his honor, to which he invited many friends and slaves invite women jackets and tunics fanned the humid air rhythmically with long stemmed palm leaves. A stately dignity clothed the scene. The wife of Nomasir and two young sons, with friends and other members of the family, sat upon rugs behind him, eager listeners. My father, he began deficiently. I bow before thy wisdom. 10 years ago, when I stood up at the gates of manhood, thou bade me to go forth and become a man among men, instead of remaining a vassal to thy fortune. Thou gave me liberally of thy gold. Thou gave me liberally of thy wisdom. Of the gold, alas, I must admit of a disastrous handling. It fled indeed from my in continued my son, thy believing that I might find their opportunity. I joined a caravan as the wind was among these. As we journeyed, they told me in confidence that in Nineveh was a wealthy man who owned a horse so swift that it had never been taken. Its owner believed that no horse living could run with greater speed. Therefore, would he be eager any sum, however large, that his horse could outspeed any horse in all Babylonia. All Babylonia compared be beaten with ease with a plan. With a plan. Laughed. Was another young man with whom I became quite friendly. He was location. Not long after our arrival, he told me that a merchant had died and his shop with its rich merchandise and patronage me. I would be guided by the wisdom of age, not by the inexperience of youth. For the benefits of you, you are seated here in this night. I will read the wisdom of my father as engraved upon the clay tablet which he gave to me 10 years ago. The 5 laws of gold. Who will put by not less than one tenth of his earning to create an estate for his future and that of his family. Second law. Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wiser who finds it for the profitable employment, multiplying even at the flocks of the field. Third law. Gold clinged to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of man wise in its handling. Fourth law. Gold stripped away from the man who invests it in businesses for purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its kin. Fifth law. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings or who followed the alluring advice of trickster and schemers, schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience or romantic desires in environment. There are the 5 laws of gold as written by my father. I do proclaim. He again faced कितनी परसेंट बैटरी है 33. He again faced his father. I have told thee of the depth of the poverty and despair to which my inexperience brought me. However, there is no chain of disasters that will come to end. Mine came when I secured employment managing a crew of slaves working upon the new outer wall of the city. Profiting from my knowledge of the first law of gold, I saved a copper for my first earning, adding adding to it at every opportunity until I had a piece of silver. It was a slow procedure, for I must live. I did spend grudgingly, I admit, because I was determined to earn back before 10 years were over as much gold as you, my father, had given to me. One day, the slave master with whom I had become quite friendly said to me, "Thou art a thrifty youth who spends not wantonly, but he earns. Hast thou gold put by thou that is not earning?" Yes, I replied. It is my greatest desire to accumulate gold to replace that which my father gave to me and okay. It's been it has been 3 hours. I have been speaking for 3 hours. One day the slave master with whom One day the slave master with whom I had become quite friendly said to me, "Thou art a thrifty youth who spend not want only." Oh, this is I've read. Yes, I replied. It is my greatest desire to accumulate gold to replace that which my father gave to me and which I have lost. This was also read. Okay. If thou hast confidence in me, I will give thy a lesson in the profitable handling of gold. He replied, "Within a year the outer wall will be complete and ready for the great gates of the bronze that will be built at each entrance to protect the city from the king's enemy. In all nine where there is not enough metal to make these gates as the king has not thought to provide it. Here is my plan. A group of us will pull our gold and send a caravan to the mines of copper and tin, which are distant, and bring to the Nine where the metal for the gates. When the king says, "Make the great gates," we alone can supply the metal and a rich price he will pay. If the king will not buy from us, he will yet have the metal which can be sold for a fair price. In his offers, I recognize an opportunity to abide by the third law and invest my savings under the guidance of which wise men. Nor I was disappointed. Our pool was a success, and my small stores of gold was greatly increased by the transaction. In due time, I was accepted as a member of this same group in other ventures. They were men. They were men wise in the profitable handling of gold. They talked over each plan presented with great care before entering upon it. They would take no chance of losing their principal on trying it up in unprofitable investment from which their gold could be not not be recovered. Such foolishness things as the horse race and the partnership into which I had entered with my inexperience would have had scant consideration with them. They would have immediately pointed out their weaknesses. Through my association with these men, I learned to safely invest gold to bring profitable returns. As the years went on, my treasure increased more and more rapidly. I not only made back as much I lost, but much more. Through my misfortunes, My trials and my success I have tested time and again the wisdom of five laws of gold. Who is without knowledge of five laws, gold comes not often and goeth away quickly. But to him who abide by the five laws, and gold comes and works as his dutiful slave. Nomasir ceased speaking and mentioned to a slave in the back of the room. The slave brought forward one at a time, three heavy leather bags. One of these Namasir took and placed upon the flower of his father before his father addressed him again. Thou didst give to me a bag of gold, Babylon gold. Behold in its place. I do return to thee a bag to Nineveh gold of equal weight and equal exchange as will all will agree. Thou didst give to me a clay tablet inscribed with the wisdom. Behold in its stead. I do return 2 bags of gold. So saying, he will took from the slave the other 2 bags and likewise placed them upon the floor greater value I consider thy wisdom than thy gold. Yet who can measure in bags of gold the value of wisdom? Without wisdom, gold is quickly lost by those who have it. But with wisdom, gold can be secured by those who have it or not, as these 3 bags of gold do prove. It does indeed give to me the deepest satisfaction, my Father, to stand before Thee and say that because of Thy wisdom I have been able to become rich and respected before men. The father placed his hand fondly upon the head of the Nomasir. Thou hast learned well thy lessons, and I am indeed fortunate to have a son to whom I must entrust my wealth. Kalabab seized to his tail and looked critically at his listeners. What means this to thee? This tales on Nomasir, he continued. Who amongst thee can go to the father or to thy father of thy wife and give an account of wife's handling of his earning? What would these vulnerable men think for you to say? I have travelled much and learned much and labored much and earned much, yet alas, of gold I have little. Some I spent wisely, some I spent foolishly, much I lost in unwise ways. Dost still think it but an inconsistency of fate that some men have much gold and others have not? Then you are, then you are. Men have much gold when they know the five laws of gold and abide thereby. Because I learned these five laws in my youth and abided by them, I have become a wealthy merchant. Not by some strange magic did I accumulate my wealth that comes quickly goes the same way. Wealth that stayed to the enjoyment and satisfaction to its owner comes gradually, but it is a child's bond of knowledge and persistent, persistent purpose. To earn wealth is but a slight burden upon the thoughtful man. Bearing the burden consistently from year to year accomplishes the final purpose. The five laws of gold offers to thee a rich reward for their observation. Each of these five laws enrich with meaning, and lest thy overlook these in the briefness of my tale, I will now repeat them. I do not I do know them each my heart, because in my youth I could see their value and would not be content until I knew them word by word. The first law of gold. Gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earning to create an estate for his future and that of his family. that one tenth of his earning consistently and invest it wisely will surely in case of God calls him to the worlds of darkness. Life. The more gold I accumulate, the more is readily it comes to the me and increased quantities. The gold which I save earn more, even as your wills, and it earnings earn more, and this and contently. Gold indeed is a willing Gold indeed is a willing worker. It is ever eager to multiply when opportunity presents itself. To every man who hath a store of gold set by, as the year pass, it multiplies itself in surprising fashion. The third law of gold. Gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of man wise in its handling. Gold indeed clings to the cautious owner even as it flees the careless owner. The man who seeks the advice of men who wise in handling gold soon learn not to jeopardize his treasure but to preserve in safety and enjoy in contentment its consistent increase. The fourth law. Gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. To those men who hath gold, yet is not skilled in its handling, many uses for its appear most profitable. Too often these are fraught with danger of loss, and if properly analyzed by wise men and show small possibility of profit. Therefore, the inexperienced owner of gold who trusts to his own judgment and invests it in businesses and purposes with which he is not familiar too often finds his judgment imperfect and pays with his treasure for his inexperience. Wise indeed is who invests his treasures under the advice of men skilled in the ways of gold. The fifth law. The fifth law of gold. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings or who followed the alluring advice of the trickster and schemers or who trusts it to his own inexperience or romantic desires or any investments. Fanciful propositions that thrill like adventure tales always come to the new owners of gold. These appear to endow his treasure with magic powers that